About 15 minutes into watching Gemini, I had a strange feeling that I wouldn't be able to do a serious review on this movie. And about halfway through, I knew for a fact that I wouldn't. So strap in, because this is a joke of a review for a joke of a movie that just shows you that some millennials just shouldn't make murder mysteries, because this movie is horrible and I really loved so much of it because it made me laugh out loud. And yes, this is no comedy. Welcome to Indecent. My name is Vincent and I'm here to take a look at some films, both old and new, to help you find what could be your next favorite movie. And spoiler alert, it's not going to be this one. If you have a heart for passion projects and low budget masterpieces, please consider subscribing to my quest on the journey to find the ultimate independent production. But without wasting any more time, let's dive right into this piece of trash called Gemini. Gemini is a 2017 American mystery thriller film written, directed, and edited by Aaron Katz, which explains who the real culprit is. When Heather Anderson is shot dead in her home, Detective Anne becomes suspicious of her assistant Jill. Jill, on the other hand, decides to investigate on her own and clear her name. Okay, so usually when we do these reviews, I have a spoiler-free section and a spoiler section, where in the spoiler-free section I give some general thoughts and stuff that wouldn't ruin the movie for you, and then in the spoiler section I would just spoil the heck out of the movie because it's meant for people who've seen it. But I'm not even going to do that with this movie, because I want to sincerely ask you to not watch this movie, because it is not worth your time and it is horrible. There are sections of it that had me laughing out loud because it was so horribly bad, but it's not quite enough to even make me tell you to go watch it for that sake. It's just so horrible. It falls in line with a specific type of movie that I've watched, like the specific type of bad movies. Another one that comes to mind is a movie that unfortunately Andrew Garfield made called Mainstream, that I was so excited to watch, but it was like, how was this made? And it's the same with this movie, because it's not like bonkers or anything, it's just such a bad script. How did anyone make this? So I'm just gonna poke fun at this movie most of the time. I'll explain why it's horrible, but I mean, just take my word on it. So let's take a look at the characters of this movie, and I'm telling you, they're all bad. Every single one of them. I was so annoyed by every person in this movie, from people who've proven that they can act well in other movies. They did a shit job in this, but then there were some special cases, like the lead in this movie, I believe called Jill, who I haven't seen in anything else. And as this movie started, I was like, I wonder why I haven't seen her before. She proved why as I continued watching the movie, because she was like ludicrously bad in this. And you know what? Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was the director of the movie. But this is not a good first impression. She's like a cartoon character at times. Then she's like a dead body at other times. She's all over the place. And she does such a bad job at the movie. And then the most heartbreaking part of it all is when John Cho enters the scene. And I think, no, don't do my boy John Cho dirty, because I love John Cho. He's an amazing actor and has done an amazing job in a lot of great movies, including some indie films like Searching, which I should totally do a review on. But in this movie, he has some of the funniest lines for all the wrong reasons. And don't worry, we're gonna get there. Like, I'm so excited to share some ridiculous lines that this movie has with you. But that being said, the cast of this movie is just stupid, and well, there's the one guy with the octopus that's quite entertaining. Yes, I said the guy with the octopus. Man, how do you just do such a bad job? Okay, so I feel like I just can't do this movie justice in regards to how shit it is if I don't actually show you some clips. So I've got 2 or 3 lines from this movie that is just so crazy. Like, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I thought it was the stupidest stuff. So here's like a few lines from the movies just to give you an idea of how, like, weirdly bad it is.
I can tell you're smart. You remember things, am I right?
I do.
I think you might remember things more than most people. It's just a gut feeling I have.
I know you don't want to think about this right now, but you have to think about this right now. Because what we say and do right now, that's what people are going to remember about this. I know you and I kind of hate each other, but I actually quite like you.
You want a coffee?
No, thanks.
2 coffees, regular coffees. Drink your coffee.
I don't want it. I said I didn't want it.
Okay, look, do whatever makes you happy, but just listen for a couple of minutes. Can you do that?
Hey, what do you think I should bring to read?
I don't know what books you own.
Well, clearly something escapist. Do you know anything about nautical fiction?
No, you don't think I killed her, do you?
You two were like freaky, f***ed up best friends. People like that kill each other all the time.
I mean, how does that make any sense? Those things just, that's not how humans talk. And there's this other scene in the movie where it's hard to just show it because you kind of have to get the context of it. But the detective, this brilliant, quite smart guy detective, is in the coffee shop. You know, the man who forces the coffee upon the lead character. They're sitting in this diner, as you saw, and they're having this long conversation. And at the end of the conversation, Jill leans over, looking across Mr. John Cho, and goes, "Stan?" And literally, and this is not a comedy movie, the camera pans a little, and Stan is just sitting there. Stan is a paparazzi guy. And he's just sitting there and is like, "Wow, I got all that on tape." Like, she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's literally sitting next to them. And it's just like, how is that possible? And then the thing is, it gets better. And then the detective looks at Stan and he's like, "Well, you know, in the state of California, you can't use this recording without our consent." And then Stan looks over and he's like, "Well, you might want to tell your lady friend that." And they pan back to the original shot and Jill's gone. And I'm like, do these people have no awareness of what goes on outside of the framing of the camera? And it's just so funny. And another thing that was really funny to me is when you eventually meet Devin, one of the suspects of Zoe Kravitz's death, it's like the whole time they allude to him being this bad rebel boy who's a bad boyfriend and who she just wants to get away from. And when you meet him, he looks like what a 7-year-old would think the bad rebel boyfriend looks like. Like, when I saw him, I'm like, I burst out in laughter. I'm like, this is the guy that we're supposed to be afraid of? I mean, the dude literally just looked like a cup of teen angst mixed with insecurity and baked until golden brown. And I mean, it was just so funny. He literally had the douchebag dyed hair and the jacket and like his walk. And this movie just felt like aliens had been living in California, but only at nighttime, observing a few people's behaviors and like, we can make a movie about this, but no, let's make it a murder mystery. It's just so unnatural. And it's a funny thing about Neon as a film studio, the film studio that distributed or produced, I'm not sure, this movie, is they're such a hit and miss for me. You either love or hate a Neon production because they're a wannabe A24 where they greenlight stuff that might not work on paper but just might work in real life, and then sometimes you get really bad stuff and really good stuff. I mean, here's a bunch of movies that came from Neon that's actually really good movies, but then keep in mind they also made these movies, and it's so weird to think that so much good and so much bad can come from the same place. If I'm honest, I don't feel like I have much more to say. I mean, we could talk about the ending, about the fact that, oh, well, actually, she's still alive. Ooh, that was so stupid. And I was like, I called it from the beginning, but it, like, when Jill finds Mrs. Zoe Kravitz, Heather Anderson, alive, they're like, "Oh, I knew you were alive. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know what to do. It's cool. I'm gonna punch you in the face now. Okay, everything's better. Let's do an interview. Everything's peaceful. And now, let's slowly pan to a shot of her starting to smile. Then we pan to the skyline as the credits of the movie come up. Because that's art, right? Right? Like, slow, long shots of nothing. That's art. It's like, it just feels like the guy who strapped a banana in a museum and everyone thought it was an art piece. It has that vibe to me. Like, I would kind of compare this movie to Velvet Buzzsaw in the sense that this movie is weird, but Velvet Buzzsaw was at least creative and like, it was this movie on cocaine. I don't know, they just fall in the same genre for me, although Velvet Buzzsaw actually felt like people were trying. It was just a horrible movie. I don't know, I don't want to talk about this movie anymore, so I'm gonna cut it here because I've nothing else to say because this is so stupid. I kind of want to make this channel a recommendation channel rather than a review channel. I don't want to look at a bunch of movies or watch a bunch of movies and tell you whether they're good or bad. I want you to be able to come here to find good movies. And I feel like I've let you down and I've let myself down. And yeah, so let's not try and do this again. Let's not meet like this. So let's casually walk away from this video with a walk of shame, having spent so much time focusing on this garbage, and just hope for a way better video next time.